So we have a lot of issues with chemicals and non-native invasive species. I'll talk a little bit about non-native invasive species first. Houses of worship properties, which typically are like an acre in size, maybe a little smaller, maybe in a few scenarios quite a bit larger. They harbor some kind of weeds that are of no consequence, dandelion being one of them, to non-native things that are not problematic at all, like lilacs, to things like the non-native honeysuckles. When you look at the understory of a lot of our woods, it's the non-native honeysuckle that transform ecosystems. The non-native honeysuckles, they're in a lot of yards. And yet, if you go out into the woods and you look at the understory of a lot of our woods, it's the non-native honeysuckle. And they are the types of non-native invasive plants that transform ecosystems. That's a big deal. Garlic mustard transforms the understory of ecosystems, northern hardwoods forests. Phragmites, the weed that we find growing in waterways along Green Bay, transform ecosystems.
So one comment, my sister lives in Menominee, and
yes,
you cannot,
yes.
If you know Marinette, you have people that have waterfront in Marinette or Menominee, you cannot believe what's happened.
No,
it's like out of the movies. And describe what this is.
As you're going down along Green Bay, before you go over the bridge, that great big giant stuff, that looks like that's Phragmites, and it transforms ecosystems. Most of these things come in as contaminants, but they change the way ecosystems perform, and that's the context here. So when we find these plants, for instance, I gave you the non-native honeysuckle, Linicera. Another one would be buckthorn, which might be in your property down along the, along the Lake Michigan drainage. They completely change the understory, and it's important that, at least in my world, that, for instance, these churchyards not serve as vector sources. You don't want to be the beginning of the problem where the birds come, they eat the nice little red berries, and then they go and void the berries out in the woods, and it's continual all the time. So these properties can play, I believe, a really important part in providing that message, and also eliminating some of these vector sources for our northern hardwood forests or our lake shore and so on. And I've given you a really small snippet of this, but that's part of what I see.